and an attempt to understand. 2, ask sincere questions with attempt to increase comprehension and compassion. 3, speak from your own perspective and be honest and succinct. And 4, focus on the ideas rather than the person in the moments of tension. Can we all agree to those?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's super meaningful that there's so many people in this community that just want to explore this topic. A lot of ignorance, a lot of misinformation. I'm going to start with a little bit of history about my family. Okay? My name is Daniel Hanegis Ibrahim Salaman Abdullah Salaman Shahin. The first followers of Jesus came from small villages in Galilee, Christian communities that endured in the villages of the Holy Land until this very day. Some are no longer villages like Bethlehem and Nazareth, but bustling Palestinian cities. In other cases, Christians migrated to new areas. Some of the places in which they resettled remain small villages and are sort of like a window into what life might have been like at the time of Christ, okay? One of these villages is called Ain Arik, which lies in the hills of the West Bank north of Jerusalem, and this is where my family is from. Okay, the village gets its name from its spring and its Canaanite past. Ain Arik means the spring of the Arkites. In the Old Testament era, it was the home of the Arkites, Canaanite clan. Excuse my mispronunciations. The king of Yemen, Zaba, lived in a city called Marib in the times of Alexander the Great, like 200-300 BC, something like that. King Zaba built a large dam to protect the city from flooding caused by the mountain rain. In the 3rd century, there was a heavy flood. It ruined the dam and destroyed the city of Marib, and as a result, the people left the region. A migration of 8 tribes from 2 kingdoms. One tribe settled in Damascus, and the other kingdom was formed in Iraq. Both were Christian under the Great Roman Empire. In the year 638, Muslim Arabs conquered Damascus. Some people turned to Islam, others remained Christian. Rather than convert to Islam, some of the Christians migrated to a town called Al-Balqa near Al-Salt in the kingdom of Jordan. Among the people who did so were 4 brothers, Salah, Khalil, Farah, and Amir. Farah, my ancestor, moved to Ain Arik in the year 1480, a village near Jerusalem and Ramallah, to raise his family. He was probably attracted by the spring and the great farming land of that area. Okay? That's where my family lived. Over 400 years. And then in 1948, the Nakba happened. Hundreds of thousands of Arabs were displaced. Many were killed. Many villages destroyed. Not just destroyed and run out, but they planted trees over where the villages were so they could never become villages again. Okay, the guy who's the hero who planted those trees is a hero in Israeli history. So many of the refugees moved on. But those who remain make up a big part of the population. My grandfather, Isa Shahin, served in the Ottoman army. This is the only thing that gave him legal standing to his property that his family had farmed for over 400 years. Okay, those who didn't join the army did not have that paper. They did not have any right to their ancestral homelands. Okay? So my grandfather and his wife had 7 children who survived childhood, and at least 5 others that did. My uncle Mufti migrated to America in the late 1950s with $5 in his pocket. He managed to bring over all of his brothers and most of his sisters. My father, John I. Shahin, was the youngest son, and he immigrated to Pittsburgh in 1962. He was 21 years old. Okay? 500 years, 400, 500 years. And then they all had to leave. The brothers all came and settled in Pittsburgh. This is a tight family. Arabs are tight. Palestinians are tight. Right? That family stayed in Pittsburgh, and then they moved together. All 4 brothers moved to San Jose. I was born in Pittsburgh. We moved there when I was 1, and we lived together as a family, right? As a family unit, because family is so important. That is the core of Palestinian society, being a good family and being a good neighbor. Okay. He married my mother. She's a quarter Lebanese. Quarter Lebanese and 3/4 Palestinian. This is where my prepared remarks are gone. So now let's talk about what happened next. being Palestinian was synonymous with being a terrorist. The only representation Palestinians got in any kind of media was as a terrorist, sometimes played by Jewish people. This was the background of my life. Okay? It was something that I could live. To me, Arabs, I didn't know any Muslim people. I thought Arabs were I didn't even know I was Palestinian until I was 10 years old. Because my parents didn't want me to talk about that at school. Right? You don't talk about being a Palestinian. You're not proud to be a Palestinian. There is no Palestine. Right? There's no country recognized that's called Palestine. So you're not. In fact, as many people will tell you to this day, in Arcata City Council meetings, people will tell you that the term Palestinian is just synonymous. It's a blanket term for terrorists. Okay? This is something people believe. There's probably people in this room that believe it. So my problem is, I've got 2 children here in Arcata. I've got 2 Palestinian children. Okay? You can call me a terrorist all day long, and I'll actually smile in your face, and I'll have a conversation with you. Because I know something that my uncles always taught us. They would have conversations about politics, mostly in Arabic. And they'd talk about what was going on. And I would ask questions, and they would say, when one of them would say the Jews did something, it would be corrected by my uncle and say, no, we don't have a problem with Jews. The problem is Israel. Okay, this is the foundation of my education. I grew up with very close Jewish friends. My children have very close Jewish friends to this day. Rabbi Bob, we're buddies. Okay? I can be friends with anyone who can treat me and see me as a human. Now, I'm not a religious person. I'm not an atheist. I'm more of a pantheist. Okay? So gods are fictional characters that we believe in. That's, in my mind, that's what they are. But it doesn't matter. I have a lot of respect for religious people. I have a ton of respect for religious people because all of my family is religious. So many people I know are religious. I have deep respect for that. However, when you let ancient prophecies and religions dictate how you treat other people, other humans, and deny them their heritage, you tell me you tell any Jew from anywhere in the world they can go to Israel today and be a citizen and in fact start colonizing and start occupying the occupied territories, but my family, who has 500 years plus history in the region, I have no right to move there. And that's the core. That's my trauma, is that I see every day the state of Israel breaking international laws, okay? The ICC and the ICJ were set up in the wake of World War II to prevent the Holocaust from happening again. Right? When you deny international law, when you say the ICJ and the ICC and their rulings mean nothing, you are really not doing a favor to the Jewish people or to the Jewish state. I would love for the Jewish state to live up to its press. Right? Wow, they're a democracy, right? Man, there are Arabs in the Knesset. There are Arab policemen. But did you know, who here knows that mixed religious marriage is not recognized in Israel? Okay? Who here knows that there are Arabs that are citizens there? Those people have the same basic human rights as other Israelis. This is true. They do not have the same civil rights. Okay, this is the critical distinction. Civil rights are important. We fought for civil rights in this country. It should be abhorrent to every single one of you, every single American who thinks a person gets special rights because of their religion. That's just morally wrong. I don't care what religion you are, what country you're from. So you want to talk about trauma? This is my trauma. And I appreciate those who are bringing up the fact that saying that it's like a victimhood Olympics, right? That is dismissive. going on by people that have no power and that are being commiserated and killed with our tax dollars. That's the key distinction. We have laws on the books. The Leahy law says that we cannot send funding to those who commit human rights violations. We have laws on the books that our president has decided we're not going to enforce. And the presidential candidate, both of them, right? The Republican candidate, worst thing imaginable that could happen if Donald Trump were elected, right? But what has Kamala Harris offered to us? Nothing. Pure lip service, pure vibes, and pure feelings. But all she needs to say is one thing, and I'll vote for her. Okay? Here's all she needs to say. I am in favor of conditioning aid to Israel based on the compliance with international law. I don't see that as a controversial statement, and I don't see it as anything that any sane, caring, loving, thinking human being can disagree with. But if you do, come on, let's talk about it. I'll talk about it. All right? So this is it. This trauma is, the difference is between the two traumas. People go, man, the Holocaust, 6 million, and then there was only how many? Only a few 100,000 Arabs killed. Dude, it's not the numbers. Dude, it's the fact that one side has zero power in the situation, and the other not only has all the power, but has the full support of the media and the government of this country with my tax dollars, of which I pay a lot. So I don't want my trauma to boil down to my tax bill. And I don't think if my tax bill were lower, I would feel any better about this situation.
We're paying for genocide. We're paying for genocide.
We are paying for genocide. And I thank you in the audience that agree with me, but I also thank you that don't agree, who are willing to listen and willing to think about it and willing to talk about it, because I recognize some of these things you're hearing tonight you've never heard before. Okay? Some things you know, some things you don't. I learned a lot of things I never knew. I learned about the indigenous Jews of Israel. There were about 20% of the people that were there were Jewish. But why did 20% of the people get 80% of the land? To ask the British. Okay? So, we're all still paying for this problem today. And my biggest fear in life is someday somebody's going to call one of my children what they've called me my whole entire life. Right? And when they do that, I honestly, I don't know how I'm going to react. I hope that my love for my fellow humans, my fellow Americans, because God damn it, I love America too. It's horrible. It's done horrible things. It was founded in genocide as well, and racism. But we've got a North Star that we move towards, right? And that's what we have to be willing to hold a country that calls itself the most moral army in the world, that is the number one recipient of aid, that is one of the only countries that's allowed to have a foreign lobbying body here on the United States that is putting their finger on the scale on federal and local elections. These are problems that we have to face. That is our call to action. We need to demand that Israel aid be sent to Israel in accordance with the compliance with international law. Period. That's my wish and my hope. Thank you.
I want to thank our guests for all of that. You know, for all of that. Thank you for your candor, thank you for your honesty, thank you for providing your perspective to this conversation. So now we're gonna move of the program where we get to talk amongst each other. And I'm going to encourage you all to be brave, to not sit by people that you know, to sit with people that you don't know, and to engage in civil, respectful discourse with them. Express your opinions respectfully. Talk to each other, not at each other, please. Listen to each other. Listen to hear instead of listening to respond. And please treat each other with compassion and understanding. Thank you. So we got about, and I'm going to give you 30. You got 30 minutes of small group discussion. Thank you.
30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Please excuse me, I'm going to go pray myself. I'll be back. Wonderful speech. I really appreciate you.
Again, move around. I see some
Thanks
of
for
y'all
being here.
still sitting in the same seat. So you sat down there. Please move around.
No, maybe it's close. It might be a close. It's so long enough.